Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope that everyone has had a great week. It's Friday night here in Australia and I've just finished my week and I thought I'd sit down and make a video about my Notion dashboard. So in this video, I will be taking you through how I use it to keep track of goals, any projects I have on the go, tasks, how I use it to manage and keep track of my physical and mental health, and a few other things. What I'll do is I will show you each component in the dashboard, and then later in the video, I will show you how to build some of the things that I've shown you so that you can replicate it in your own Notion dashboard. I've thought a lot about where I put things in this dashboard. I think it was Danny Hatcher who said that your Notion dashboard or your Notion database, your Notion workspace, it's never really finished. You're always tinkering and changing things around. And I think that is 100% true. And if you haven't looked at Danny Hatcher's channel, I highly recommend that you check it out. He has a lot of great information about Notion and other things, and I've learned a lot from his channel. So I'm pretty happy with where things are at the moment, but I think I'll continually refine it and make sure that it's working for me. So first things first, on the left, I have my goals database. Or I have a linked view to my goals database. This is showing what I am focusing on for the current year. So I keep all my goals in Notion and I have a filter set up here so that it will only show any goals that are in 2021. So any goals that have 2021 as a property. From goals will often flow a project. It's not always the case. Sometimes I'll be working on a project without a goal, and sometimes I'll be working on a goal without a project, but a lot of the time when I have a goal, I will set up a project. So this is pulling from my projects database, and I've just filtered on there to show any that are in progress. And then I have my tasks on the right here. So it's pulling from my master task database. So all of these three here are pulling from other databases, and I've put them in my dashboard so that I can come to one place and just see everything in one go. If I scroll down a little bit here, I haven't been using the timeline view until recent time. I know it is a relatively new feature for Notion. I played around with it when it first came out, but it didn't really do it for me at the time, but now I'm using it a lot and I think it's really good. So basically, any time that a task has a due date, I'll put that date into the task property. So for example, I'm working on this video now, which is how to build a basic Notion dashboard, and I'm going to post it on Sunday. So if I shift that there, it will change the due date. So if I open here, you'll see that the due date is the 16th of January. But if I shift it back to the 17th, it will change it in there as well. It gives you the ability to see what is coming up, and you can easily move things around if the due date changes. I think this would have been a really helpful tool in general to have when I was at university, because obviously you could create a project at the top here. It might be an assignment to write an essay, for example, and then you might have an active task being write first draft, and then you can put the due date, and then you can put submit final assignment and put the due date in there as well, so you can see everything that's coming up. I also have another way to look at my tasks. So this here is my weekly agenda. So what I've done is I've set this up so that it will group the tasks by day. So I've set in here group by day, and each of these tasks has a day property where you can enter the day, and then that way it will show up in this view. So as you can see, just in that instance there, I have three different ways of looking at the same database, which is, I think, one of the powerful benefits of Notion. So I've got my tasks list up here, which I'm looking at in a list view. And then I have tasks here as well, same database in timeline view, and then also board view. If we come down here to this section, another example of a few different ways to look at the same database. This is pulling from my journal entries database. So every day I will create a journal entry, so I can just open it there, and you'll see I record my feelings, I record something that I'm grateful for. Here I've written, riding my bike to work, feeling the wind in my face, the pedals under my feet. I must have been feeling a little bit philosophical, a little bit poetic that morning. When I look at it now, it's probably a little bit ridiculous, but I find that writing things down and being conscious of things that you are grateful for, it's a great way to appreciate life. I also record my story for the day, which is from a book called StoryWorthy, which I highly recommend. And then I also record here, how were you a better husband today? I try every day to be a better husband, yes, it is true. My wife shakes her head in amazement. Obviously, I fall short quite a bit, but I do try, and I try to write things down and reflect on them and how I could be a better husband. I have my journal entries there so that it's always front of mind. I can come to my dashboard and make sure that I'm making a journal entry every day, and that I'm also recording my homework for life. If we come down a little bit further, getting towards the end here of my dashboard, as I said, it's a pretty basic dashboard, but I think it's pretty functional and it gives me everything that I need. I have here my weekly agenda. So it brings up the past 4 weeks based on a filter that I've put there. So date is within the past month, and it will show me any weekly agendas from the last month. And you can see there, I'm tracking hours of exercise, whether I was guilty of binge eating. I am trying to get better at that occasionally. My wife makes fun of me because I will eat pretty well throughout the day, and then if I have one bad meal, I will end up eating the kitchen and the pantry, which she says is no bueno. And I'm also doing breath work as well. I've been doing that every day this year. It's only 15 days into the year, but I'm really seeing a lot of benefits from doing that. I'll quickly show you my agenda. So I'll just open that in a new tab. So this is my weekly agenda. You'll see I have some tasks here, things that I'm working on, just another way of seeing what I need to do. I have my habit tracker down here where I record fitness, hours of exercise. I'm not eating dairy this year, so I've got that there as a reminder. Breath work, and whether I went to jiu-jitsu as well. And then I also have active projects down here. So just another way to keep across what projects I'm working on. So what I do is I will record my hours of exercise. Mondays and Wednesdays are a pretty exercise intensive day for me. I generally do an hour of exercise in the morning, then I ride my bike to and from work, which takes about half an hour, and then I go to jiu-jitsu for an hour and a half at night. So that's why it's quite high. The hours of exercise, I have it set at the bottom here so that it will add everything up that is in that column. So I'm currently at 11 hours of exercise for the week, which is obviously a little bit ridiculous, but that's just me. So then I'll just record in here 11 hours, and then I'll go down and look at my breath work, and I can record 5 hours here. If there is anyone who is watching this who knows a way that I can use a formula or some method where at the top here it will just automatically populate what I am putting here, jump in the comments and say, Dave, this is how you do it. That would be greatly appreciated. If we come back, you'll now see that this has updated in the weekly agenda view here. And I also have here an average over the course of the 4 weeks. So it's just another way to keep across things. In terms of my jiu-jitsu, this year I'm trying to be really consistent in terms of training twice a week. And so I've set this up so that it will bring up entries from the past 4 weeks, so the past month. And so I know that this should always have 4 entries in it, because that is 2 times a week. Finally, at the bottom here, I have the book that I'm currently reading. I have covered how I use Notion to read books in a separate video, so I'll include a link in the description, and I'll also put a card at the top as well. I used to be into reading 1 book a fortnight, but what I'm trying to do this year is read less books, but read them in more detail. So 1 book a month. So I'm actually going back to this previous book. You can see here the date that I read it was from the 9th of June to the 23rd of June. And it is tagged to these weekly agendas, but I've also added it back to this year's weekly agenda because I'm reading it again. And the way that I keep my books in my currently reading view is I have this currently reading checkbox, which, as you can see there, if I check it, it will disappear in the background. So anytime I want to reread a book, I can click on it, or every time I want a book to show up there, I just click on currently reading. Finally, I have all the books that I want to read listed there. Anytime I hear about a good book, I will add it to Notion, and that way I'm never struggling with an idea of what to read next. So that's my Notion dashboard. What I'll do now is I will quickly show you how to replicate some of the things that I have just shown you so that you can build it in your own Notion dashboard. So let's start off with the goals section here. So I will just type / and then heading 2, goals, and I will give it a color of green so that it is exactly the same. What I'm going to do now is type / again and linked database, and then it will bring up my goals table. As you might remember from the start, I said I was using list view, so I will go up here and I'll call this 2021 goals, and then I'll type on list and create. It will now bring up all of my goals, but what I'm going to do is add a filter here. So I'll click on add a filter and I'll filter it so that the year is 2021. So now it's bringing up my goals for 2021. So if I scroll back at the top, that looks pretty much identical. So now let's look at how to bring up active projects. So if I go down here, again, slash heading 2, and I'm gonna call this active projects, type slash linked, again, linked database, bring up projects. So I will type here active projects, click on list and create, and then I'll come over to the ellipsis here, click on filter, add a filter, and the filter is going to be status is in progress. And so that will now bring up any projects that I have that are active. Okay, so you may have noticed at the top, I had 3 columns. That's something that people ask me how to do quite often, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to show you quite easily now. It can be a little bit fiddly sometimes. So if you click and drag and go over to the side here, and then you grab your projects and drop it in underneath. That's worked, excellent. And then now I'll bring goals up here. So now you can have 2 columns essentially. I'll show you quickly now how to bring up that task with due dates view. So same thing as before, heading 2, tasks with due dates. Find that one there, tasks with due dates, and make it a timeline view. And then over here, it is already, I believe, showing timeline by due date. So you can see some of the tasks that I have due. So that's really handy. So that has been an overview of my Notion dashboard. It is pretty basic, but I find it is really functional and it's really helpful to keep across all the different things that I'm doing, and it brings me awareness of the different goals that I'm working on, projects and tasks, all in different ways. I'm really hoping that's been helpful for you and you're able to apply some of this knowledge to your own Notion dashboard. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in the next video.